Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Steph. I'm a Christian, a wife, a homemaking mama to two lovely little girls with a third on the way. And I have just moved in the summer past there from Northern Ireland across the pond to the United States of America and started this YouTube channel for the purpose of encouraging other like-minded women in the vocation of homemaking. So please grab yourself a cuppa and get yourself comfy, or grab a pile of laundry, whatever you would prefer, and let's get to it. Recently, I've been thinking about homemaking and faithfulness in the small, oftentimes very unseen things that homemaking can involve, such as the repetitive tasks of folding laundry, ironing shirts, cleaning dishes, changing diapers, all those sorts of things. And I think quite often our temptation as homemakers is to be discontent or striving for more, like this isn't enough. And yet it's actually in this quiet faithfulness in these tasks that God has given us that we can find true purpose and real beauty in our Christian homemaking. It struck me too that sometimes we think we need to have more of something or a bigger something, you fill in the blank, whatever it might be. And yet what if God is actually calling us to be faithful and steward what we already have, what He's already entrusted us with? For example, ironing shirts can feel like something that's just never quite fully done. Like you iron some and then it builds up, or next week you've got another ironing pile and you're back to it. It has a very repetitive nature to it. Similar to like you're cleaning the floors. You clean them and then they get dirty. If there's little ones in the house, they maybe get dirty a little bit quicker than you'd like. And yet I like to remind myself that that is evidence of life being lived out in my home. And that those crumbs on the floor are a sign of something that I should be grateful for, that we have food on the table and tummy's well fed. But in terms of repetition, it's actually part of God's design. The sun rises every day and the sun sets every day. And we are called to work and toil in between. And that's probably where I would advocate for men working outside the home and toiling, as it says in the Bible, and women who have the curse of pain in childbirth from the fall. I think there is such a wonderful space for women who have that role as women to bear children, to carry them in our bodies and to nurture life. And because of that cycle that we have every month, even when we're not pregnant, that it's so nice to be able to actually nurture and care for those in our home. And there's also the ability to be economic with that whenever you have the time that allows for that. But especially in those early years, such formative years I think that culture would tell us aren't important and don't really matter, whenever your child is from like age 0 to 3, that actually your child is taking in so much, and what an opportunity you have to be the present mother with them, caring for them and discipling them even in those early moments. And in relation to the repetition, God designed life with rhythm and repetition. And when we lean into these rhythms, we can find them to be really enjoyable and not a waste of our time, but provision and love made visible, even in small ways. So not only are we being faithful in these small acts of service and love with the time that we have and caring for the resources that we've been given, but on that same note, we actually have such an opportunity to make the most of things that are maybe once would have thrown away, or once said, oh, that's past, it's best, and turn it into something beautiful. Like, for example, in this meal I'm making here, a simple spaghetti bolognese, I wanted garlic bread, and we used to just buy garlic bread from the grocery store. And then, similar to a lot of other things in my food journey, I just started looking at the labels and reading all the ingredients and wondering why there was such a long list for what should just be bread and garlic and butter and maybe some herbs. And so I love the idea of homemade garlic bread. But as a busy mama with young kids, that doesn't always necessarily mean that I can do that from scratch as well as cook the dinner from scratch. And so sometimes a nice alternative than just buying the store-bought garlic bread, which, don't get me wrong, so handy and we have loved in the past, but it is something I'm just trying to swap out as I can, and I'm able to as time allows. But even just like my dried up, maybe old sourdough bread that I have, and just taking that and turning it into a fresh garlic bread, adding some butter, some garlic, some salt, some herbs, and frying it up, or putting it even in the grill if we want hands-free. And that's just a way of taking something that you could have very easily chucked and said is no good, and turning it into something beautiful and delicious. And what I love about this aspect is that that's what God does with us, and that's what he does in the Bible. You see it over and over again. He takes something small, maybe insignificant, and he multiplies it. And I think as women, we have such a unique role in multiplication, even in childbearing, but in so many other ways, even in our home, being creative in the kitchen and multiplying something that didn't look very appealing, or you might think when you look in the fridge there's not really anything to eat, but it could be turned into a beautiful soup or something delicious when you just have the vision for it. And especially as a Christian homemaker, as a stay-at-home mum, you know, you're making do in many ways on one income. And so Christian homemaking is not necessarily about abundance, but stewardship. And yet in that stewardship, sometimes I think we can make an abundance out of what we already have. And with our own unique intentionality, it can be something really special, even if it's a really simple meal. When you light a candle and you set the table, it becomes something sacred when you gather your loved ones around the table for a nice meal, which just brings so much warmth and security and comfort to the home after a busy day. It's easy to think that this kind of work doesn't matter, and yet it is so important. Everyone feels it when it is done, and everyone feels it when it's not. In many ways, it is practicing the gift of hospitality each and every day to your own loved ones. And that's something your husband will notice and enjoy and really deeply appreciate more than he can maybe tell you. And your children will rise up one day and think those were the best days. So I hope if you have listened this far, thank you. And I hope this has encouraged you. If you're a tired homemaker, if you feel like your work is unseen, that it matters so deeply and for eternity, and that God sees you most importantly. And yeah, I hope you were encouraged and maybe gave you some inspiration or ideas of how you can be using your gifts and what God has given you and blessed you with this week, even in your fridge or your pantry, and make something beautiful from. I know for me, I always find it inspiring just seeing something that someone else is making or what they're doing in homemaking to give me fresh inspiration. And I think that's a way we can encourage one another here as well. So please let me know what you're making this week, or any homemaking tips and tricks you have for just being resourceful in this way. And I look forward to seeing the next one. Bye for now.